Great, I'll take the next slide. And just to go over the agenda today. Again, my name is Ra Shakir, just for the sake of the recording, Ra Shakir with Adisa Communications. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. As far as the agenda for today's meeting, brief but very focused conversation today. We'll go over some our welcome, introductions, and housekeeping. We'll review the presentation with our two speakers today. There'll be an opportunity for question and answers and for the audience to give feedback. And then we'll provide a closing with next steps and the exit survey. So as a reminder, here are the features in Zoom that you can use to give us feedback today or to make your comments. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A feature to submit your questions. But you can also raise your hand by using the raise your hand feature. And then when you're done speaking, you'll go ahead and want to lower your hand so we can move on to the next question. Great, now that we've wrapped up our agenda and our housekeeping skills, again, I just wanted to thank you for joining us today. We're discussing the Workforce Solutions Capital Area Workforce Community Workforce Plan, and we're so appreciative of your participation and your input. So this is our second engagement, and it's part of an 8-part series to collect your feedback on the 4 strategies included in the Community Workforce Plan. Workforce Solutions has created its second iteration of the Community Workforce Plan 2.0 with the help of Austin area workforce development, community-based organizations, alongside training providers and employers. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide you with additional details on the plan. And we also want to highlight the second strategy, as I mentioned earlier, which is training. That's our focus for today. We welcome your questions and your comments regarding the plan, and we will make sure that we'll take these notes back to our colleagues at Workforce Solutions. That way they can put them in the revisions or the next steps of development for the plan. Again, thank you so much for your time today. As I mentioned, we welcome your questions and comments during the meeting. And we encourage you to use the QR code currently displayed on your screen. And selecting this code, you will be able to visit the website directly to learn more about the strategy and to submit your input through the comment box at the bottom of the page. We've also included the link in your chat for easy accessibility. You can access the website at any time, and your comments will be posted to the public. For today's meeting, we have 2 members monitoring the chat during the entire meeting to stay on top of your questions and comments. They'll be able to ask your question on your behalf or to share your comment. We'll answer the question during the Q&A session following the presentation today. Great, and before we get started with our speakers and focusing on the training topic, we just wanted to get started with a brief overview presentation to get us thinking about the topic we'll discuss today. All right, so while you look over the summary of the Community Workforce Plan, please place your name and the organization that you're representing today in the chat. And we'll just take a couple of moments just for you guys to drop your name and the organization that you're representing in the chat. Great, thank you for joining us today, David, with American Youth Works. Fantastic, we have Francisco with United Way of Austin. Hunter with TSTC. Thank you all for joining us today. We also have 2 very special guests, as I mentioned earlier. Our speakers for today will be Robin Spillman and she's the SNAP Employment and Training Community Coordinator. Robin has been with Workforce Solutions Capital Area for nearly 2 years. She works with the community organizations to help them draw down on federal funds available for serving SNAP clients. She also oversees the Rework Now program, which connects local residents economically impacted by COVID-19 with job training opportunities. Welcome, Robin. We also have Janae White. She's the Senior Director of Customer Engagement. Janae has worked for Workforce Solutions Capital Area for 11 years, and she's worked in the workforce system for nearly 20 years. She started off as a case manager and worked her way to a senior director position at the board level. Thank you again for joining us today, Janae. Excuse me. All right, hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the community workforce plan and the overview. Next, we will have a brief overview of the plan by Janae and Robin.
Great, thank you. I'll be kicking us off here. So, hi everyone. Once again, my name is Robin Spillman. I'm glad to be here, and I want to thank you all again for joining us for this engagement session. I hope everyone is enjoying these last few weeks of summer. So as Rob mentioned, through our respective roles, both Janae and I cover the second strategy in the community workforce plan on behalf of Workforce Solutions. And that strategy is training. So that strategy really focuses on how we can equip workers with the skills they need to succeed. And we can go back. We can go back one slide. Yeah. So as the slide highlights, this is a community plan. And so think of Workforce Solutions as the backbone organization to the plan, not necessarily the leader of the plan. And so because it's a collective effort, we're hoping to facilitate these sessions to gather community feedback so we can make sure to incorporate your ideas and feedback into the next iteration of the plan. So as Rob mentioned, please feel free to provide feedback either through this session or through the community workforce plan microsite. So as the slide mentions, the vision laid out in the community workforce plan is for a more in-demand or demand-driven workforce system that effectively engages employers, CBOs, and educational institutions, especially those that provide fast-track programs, including certifications, associates, and apprenticeship programs. It empowers residents to more efficiently match employers' skills needs and successfully prepares economically disadvantaged residents for middle-skilled jobs. So jobs that will pay a good wage and allow residents to live in the Central Texas, Travis County area and remain in this area. So the four main strategies included in the plan that lay out how we can achieve the ultimate goal in helping local residents access economic opportunity. And so the four main strategies are on the slide: awareness and enrollment, training, placement, and advancement. And so we'll talk about training specifically today, but it's important to note that all four strategies are closely linked and support the plan's vision. Also just wanted to mention that our teammate Leslie Puckett has previously hosted a session for the first strategy, awareness and enrollment. And so if you weren't able to attend, we'd really encourage you to join the second session for that. Maybe Jameson or someone from the ADISA team can drop the link for the other sessions that are coming up in case our participants would like to see. And I think moving on to the next slide, please. Great. So as I mentioned, strategy 2 is training. Its focus is looking at how we can equip workers with the skills they need to succeed. Next slide. So the four main ways or tactics that the community workforce plan lays out to address this strategy are through alignment, capacity building, increasing access, and persistence. And so there's no way that Janae and I will be able to cover all of these tactics fully in such a short period of time today, but the overall goal is to highlight some of the tools and strategies that have been developed since the inception of the plan. Then over the next iteration of the plan. Next slide, please. Alignment. Okay, thank you. So the first tactic is alignment. And what that means is really working with employers and collecting information as to what their hiring needs are in order for training providers to be agile and ready to offer trainings in those areas. And so one way we can do this is through engaging employers to identify 3 to 5 of the most critical occupations in their industries, and then using labor market data to help create a basic job description, and then mapping each of those occupations to a regional training program. And so this is something that Workforce Solutions is currently working on with the collaboration of our industry and employer partners. Next slide, please. So another tactic to centralize industry input and ensure that curriculum meet employer needs is through the assembly of an employer task force in each industry. And so by creating industry-focused task forces, we're able to collaborate with industry experts and further understand and meet their hiring needs. So Workforce Solutions currently participates in task forces for skilled trades, healthcare, and IT as well. So the second tactic under the training strategy is capacity building, specifically growing capacity of training providers to meet the needs of middle skill workers. So one way we can do this is by creating an inventory of training resources, including credit and non-credit courses at regional colleges, ISDs, and other training providers, and then developing a crosswalk of high school endorsements by districts to fields of study that correlate at post-secondary institutions. And then, of course, along the way, documenting any constraints or barriers to program growth, which would then allow us to analyze capacity issues. And then another component of capacity building is working with providers to identify available funding opportunities to support potential program expansion. So we can do this by being an advocate for additional funds and even partnering with local employers that are interested in becoming involved in training programs. A few ways that we could contribute would be through things like a few ways that they could contribute, would be through things like donating equipment and even loaning their instructors to the training providers to perhaps teach a class. One way Workforce Solutions specifically assists with building capacity is through developing and funding cohort-based trainings. And so we're always on the lookout for grant opportunities related to training and apprenticeships. And these grants allow us to fund customers that we receive through referrals from our community partners, fund their trainings. And so this allows our partners to serve more people and of course frees up their existing funding to use in a different capacity. So those are the first two tactics, alignment and capacity under the strategy of training. I will go ahead and pass it over to Janae from here to discuss the last two tactics, access and persistence.
Okay. Hi, I'm Janae White again, Senior Director of Customer Engagement. Wait, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me now? Okay.
Hear you. Yeah.
I owe $1 because I muted myself and didn't unmute myself. I'm Janae White, Senior Director of Customer Engagement, and I'll be speaking about two additional tactics that we have under training. The first being access. And so with access, we want to increase economically disadvantaged residents' access to middle skill training. And so in doing this, we want to keep in mind that we want to provide greater access to programs by offering classes at training sites more closely linked to economically disadvantaged zip codes and in near workplaces. We are working on identifying additional training sites that could be served by the existing partner network at minimal cost. So example would be existing classroom or training space that could be utilized for in-demand training courses. You know, and one of the ways that we're looking at this for a cost effectiveness or for individuals that can access, you know, middle skills training in certain zip codes is, you know, through COVID, a lot of training sites were going through the hybrid model for online training and with work and or in person. And with the online training, Workforce Solutions were able to provide supports for that type of training. So in most cases, we're able to maybe purchase equipment for the individual if they don't have a laptop. And so those are just some of the ways that we can make, you know, training sites accessible. And then evaluate the feasibility of using a mobile training unit for certain high demand skills where a shortage of training spaces exists. That may be one way that us or the community can make training accessible to the public. Next slide, please. And then as we're looking at access, of course, we want to grow the availability of and educate potential students about financial aid, including state and federal programs, scholarships, and employer-sponsored tuition assistance. Sorry, I went a little bit ahead on my end with my notes. But we want to maintain a list of available financial aids to support training for high demand occupations and provide this information to relevant partners across the talent network. Advocate for additional state and federal funding for financial aid, and continue to work with students to encourage them to complete the FAFSA forms. Here at Workforce Solutions in the past, we have held different events to educate individuals on how to apply for FAFSA. And we've done this in partnership with different partners, one being Foundation Communities. And so that's how Workforce Solutions has ensuring that, you know, the public is aware of the federally funded programs, the scholarships, and employer-sponsored tuition assistance. Next slide, please. And then thinking about access as well, we want to grow the availability of free or low-cost public funded programs that we have, education and training offerings focused on targeted industries. Some of the programs that we have here at Workforce Solutions is our Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, SNAP, ENT, our Workforce Education and Readiness Continuum, and Rework Now, as Robin touched on earlier. And we look at incumbent worker training as well and apprenticeships. We work with training and education partners to ensure they are accessing available funds effectively. We provide guidance to training partners wishing to amend their policies to allow public funds to support qualified distance learning. We can advocate for additional state and federal funding for training in high demand careers in targeted industries. We can create a local workforce development scholarship fund, or look at creating a local workforce scholarship fund that is targeted to economically disadvantaged zip codes and neighborhoods. We continuously raise awareness of available training to drive students' interest into these programs. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we want to expand options for students with basic skills, English barriers, or economically disadvantaged backgrounds. One of the ways that Workforce Solutions is going about this is we have partnered with the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas, and we have our Bridge to Opportunity project. to provide potential Workforce Solutions customers with additional education supports that might not yet be ready for individuals that might not yet be ready to enter into training. And so maybe individuals that that have gone through our assessments and may have tested low in English or reading. We can connect them with our literacy partner, and our literacy partner can give them additional supports in that area. And then they would refer them back to Workforce Solutions, and we would be able to connect them, assess them again, and see if they're ready to connect to education and training. Scale up efforts to accelerate academic readiness, developmental education. We look to increase utilization of evidence-based practices such as IBEST. IBEST stands for Integrated Basic Education Skills and Training. Students work with 2 teachers in the classroom. One provides job training, so if an individual is going to training for HVAC, and the other teacher teaches basic skills in reading, math, or English language. The student gets the help they need while studying in the career field of their choice. And then they learn, and they also get to learn by doing. And we also want to ensure that students have both access to assessment tools to help them identify and overcome weaknesses, and access to basic employability skill classes that can help them understand workplace etiquette and other soft skills. And when looking at access, we want to evaluate, we're going to look at evaluate student screening practices and scheduling, particularly for training programs that support high demand middle skill class occupations. This is something that's ongoing. Analyze acceptance criteria to determine whether the criteria are inclusive of applicants that come from economically disadvantaged areas, and adjust as needed. Ensure that working students' schedules are accommodated through non-traditional course access, such as block scheduling. We know that a lot of the public and individuals that come to us aren't able to just go to training without maybe working, or so the block schedule is very good for them, because then they can work around their work schedule. Online courses and a hybrid online in-person approach. And that concludes, persistence, sorry. Persistence. So we want to enhance economically disadvantaged students' persistence and completion rates. Work with training providers to analyze and address key drivers of persistence challenges. Work on setting up a data and evaluation system to help providers identify where, when, and why economically disadvantaged students are dropping out. Organize peer exchanges to assist providers in addressing their unique challenges. One of the things that we set in place here at Workforce Solutions is we have a training effectiveness matrix, and this allows us to identify like where some of the stop outs are. And most of the time what we're seeing is just life happens. Individuals maybe that started training weren't working at the time, but then they show that, okay, well, now I need to go back to work. And so we can kind of see where the dropout and the stop outs are, and we can work with the training providers to come up with a plan so that we can keep the individuals on a career pathway. For persistence, adopt the use of evidence-based models for improving persistence among economically disadvantaged students. This is something that's ongoing. Research and identify evidence-based models that can be utilized to support multiple training providers throughout the region. Work with individual training providers to evaluate the feasibility of adopting other evidence-based models that are tailored to their unique needs. Next slide. enhance and expedite access to wraparound services for economically disadvantaged students, including dependent care, career coaching, early warning intervention systems, emergency financial assistance, legal assistance, health and mental health care, and financial literacy. One way you can do this is hold regular training sessions for career navigators, counselors, and advisors to provide them with better information on referring their clients to services and helping them access services. Identify specific shortages of wraparound services and work collectively to identify resources and increase regional capacity to meet students' needs. And that's it.
Thank you, Janae. Thank you, Robin, for sharing the updates in regards to our training focus. Now we'll have Jameson show you how to locate where you can give your input on the microsite.
And it looks like I can't, well, let me see, I can't start my video, unfortunately. And I don't think I have the screen sharing, Ra. I'm sorry.
I just changed it over to you, Jameson.
Okay,
Are you able to now?
let me see. Looks like it. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Just give me 1 sec and I'll share my screen. Sorry about the delay.
No worries. The workforce team has worked hard on this website, and it's a great place for convenient access and input. I think we have it up on the screen now. Jameson, take it away.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure. Okay. So I'm showing the screen that y'all see whenever y'all land on the page, and stop me if y'all are having trouble seeing this, but like Ross said, we wanted to make giving feedback and input on the plan easier and able to be done at your convenience. And these information sessions are a good way to have that conversation live, and we're glad that y'all are here. But if there's anything that y'all think of or don't get to ask during this session, when y'all land on this page, you'll see there's a lot of things that y'all can learn and review, including an overview of the community workforce plan as a whole, upcoming engagement sessions, which I put a link directly to in the chat that you can register for. And the most important part that I want to go over is how to give your input. So as you scroll down the page or you click this button at the top, you'll land on every strategy in our plan that you can browse and review. So for instance, you can come down to strategy number 2, which we're talking about today. You can get an overview of the strategy, and you can browse through all of the tactics that Robin and Janae went over. So if you click on the alignment strategy, it will load up and have all of the information that you saw today. So you can re-review it, and there's the ability to give a comment. So whenever you're on the page, you can enter your name, your email address, and your comment, and we'll be able to receive that and follow it up with staff and provide a response as we're able to going forward. So that's an overview of it. So feel free to browse around and let us know if you have any questions and provide your comments on the website. And that's all I have, Ra.
Thanks, Jameson. We think that the tool is so cool, so interactive and easy to use. Please be encouraged to share this with your team and your stakeholders as well. Thank you again to our speakers today, Janae and Robin. And again, Jameson, thank you for that quick overview of the microsite and how you're able to provide your feedback. We do have some time for questions. Should anyone have any questions, just a reminder of how to submit your questions or your comments today during this Q&A segment. You can use the chat box and drop your questions there, or our team will field your questions. Or you can raise your hand and we will unmute and allow you to share your question with us if you choose to do so verbally. All right, so I'd like to open up the Q&A segment. Anyone have a question? All right, it looks like I do have one. This is a question we've been getting often. Will there be other opportunities to share input or get involved?
I can speak to that. Do I need my camera on though? I'll put my camera on.
No, that's okay, yeah.
No, it won't let me. Okay.
We have
I'm Yael
Yael
Lawson.
Lawson. Yes.
I'm the Chief Operations Officer with Workforce Solutions. That's what, as far as giving input, that's what this is all about. And we realized we gave a lot of information. And so that's the point of the microsite. We want your feedback. We want your input. We want you to get involved. And that is absolutely how we want it, how we want you to share that. And, this again is a community plan. Many of you are already a part of the information sharing with the Ray Marshall Center. So everyone already is involved, but if you have other ideas, we would love to hear them.
Great, thank you for that context, Yael. Really appreciate that. Just a simple comment from Ronald in the chat. He says, great job, team, and looking forward to how Capital Idea might fit into this plan. We're excited for you to share this with your stakeholders and your community as well, Ronald. We also have another comment and a question in the chat from Benjamin Kramer. And his question is, at what stages do specific programs and initiatives get plugged into the plan? I think we're going to bring Yael back for a response to that question.
Yeah, unless Janae or Robin, did you want to? No, they're happy to let me do it, right? Okay. Well, for those entities that have data sharing agreements with Workforce Solutions in the Ray Marshall Center, the data, you determine which programs the data is submitted to the Ray Marshall Center for the third-party evaluation. Typically, they're the shorter term training programs that are designed to get somebody, into the job market and to get some skills to enter employment. As far as Workforce Solutions, all of our training initiatives are included. And most of the training initiatives for the partners that we know that have been a part of the plan in 1.0 are also included. But if there's a training partner that either doesn't have a DSA with us, we are happy to enter into one and give you some information about that. And if someone has a new program that they're implementing, share that information with us and make sure that that information is transferred to the Ray Marshall Center.
Fantastic, thank you for that. All right, any other questions from our attendees today?
Actually, I'm looking at that question and maybe I didn't answer it because I think I partially answered it because I don't know if by stages, does that mean when is a program, when do we collect the data? And that would be upon program completion.
Great, Benjamin, did you want to add any context to your question? You've been unmuted.
I think Yael addressed it. I know, having participated in the first plan, that there are so many different entities involved in so many different ways, and just wondering. And again, I think Yael answered how people get involved. It would be great at some point to see those names, entities, initiatives, and data combined with the plan, so you can see sort of how the plan has come to fruition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Benjamin, and your insights in being involved in the first version of the plan. So thank you again for joining us today. All right, we have a question from David. Will these slides be available? Carmela, do you want to speak to that, where they can access the slides?
Yes, so we will have the recording for this up on the microsite, and then all of the information that you saw on the slides are available through those strategies on the microsite as well. We're really trying to drive the traffic to the microsite. So we don't have the presentation won't be available, but we do have this recording that will be up on the microsite later. And then you can also visit the microsite to see everything that was covered in those strategies and tactics overviews.
Thank you, Carmela, for sharing that. As we mentioned, the microsite is going to be the best way, not only to give your input, but to review all of the information to include the actual plan. All right, last call for questions. Any final questions? I didn't see any hands raised, and still monitoring the chat. Carmela, do you want to share the upcoming sessions just real quick? Again, you can find that on the microsite, but do you want to just give some context to that?
Absolutely. So our next strategy is going to be strategy 3, which is placement. And that first meeting is going to be Wednesday, September 15th at 6 p.m. And of course, we've got those registration links that will be in the chat, but you can also visit the microsite as well and register there. So we hope to have you at that next meeting. And then of course, we can put in the chat the other upcoming dates, but thanks so much for joining us today and the input. And we really hope that you utilize that microsite to give any of the input or anything that you think about as you're reviewing these strategies and tactics.
Thank you, Carmela. Again, everyone, thank you for your time, your participation, your future input today. Again, please visit that microsite for any additional information. Have a good day.